Ocean Story is with you, and I have new stories that touch me. There came a time in my life when I, a 44-year-old woman, had to face new challenges. My sons, two restless twin teenagers, were the product of a marriage to my previous husband, a 46-year-old man whose actions had left a deep mark on our history together. Despite his decision to cheat on me with a woman with whom he then had children, a pretty girl just starting kindergarten and a boy a year older than her, our marital boat did not sink into chaos. He eventually bound himself in marriage to his new chosen one, but he and I found the strength to remain civil to each other for the sake of our children's well-being. We came to an agreement. The children spend weekdays with me and weekends in their father's care. This established practice proved to be mutually beneficial. It was not uncommon to see that when his sons met, he brought his own children with him, who, to my surprise, turned out to be wonderful children. His wife, though she didn't socialize with me often, always showed respect and kindness to my boys, which I sincerely appreciated. Sudden tragedy struck our extended family last year when my ex-husband's wife passed away. The event plunged him into a deep depression, leaving a shadow of worry on my sons' hearts for their half-brothers and sister. Wanting to help, I offered my support, and soon our home became a sanctuary for all the children, giving my ex the time he needed to heal. As I noticed his condition began to improve, I began to encourage him to spend more time with his children. Our home was filled with joy and laughter, while my ex's children found a support and care in me that only seemed to strengthen our relationship. My ex-spouse, out of a desire to preserve the warm relationship between our families, suggested that we spend weekends together, a suggestion I'd reflected on, realizing now that perhaps I shouldn't have been so quick to agree. At this pivotal point in my life, a career opportunity presented itself, a job offer with a significantly higher level of pay. Accepting the role would have meant having to move to the other side of the country. When sharing the news with my sons, they expressed sadness at the impending separation from their father and half-siblings, but the prospect of moving and new beginnings excited them. When they shared these plans with their father, his reaction was extremely emotional. He argued that I had no right to take his sons, despite my offer of visits during family visits. His refusal to listen and accusations of cruelty and callousness left me at a loss. After this conversation, my ex's parents expressed their disappointment to me, calling my act selfish. They claimed that my ex's children needed a mother figure, attributing that role to me despite my comment that I was not their mother. Their words that I was fulfilling all maternal duties were accompanied by the threat of legal action if I left. Further messages and calls from his family, claiming that I was acting selfishly and cruelly, only added to the pressure, urging me to reconsider my decision. Racked with guilt, I asked myself, did I really act unreasonably in refusing to support my ex-spouse in raising his children after the loss of their mother? My doubts also encompassed the legal aspects of moving my children to the other side of the country, away from their father. After all, this decision only affects our mutual children and is settled by our parenting agreement, part of the terms of the divorce. It seems I need the advice of a lawyer specializing in family law to thoroughly understand the nuances of such a distant move and to make sure that my actions are in full compliance with the law, which confirms that the responsibility for raising my ex-husband's children rests solely on his shoulders, not mine. How do I proceed legally if I have full custody of our children and my ex-husband, and I have agreed outside of court to see each other on weekends? Does that mean I have the right to move without his consent? The issue is complicated by his parents' threats to go to court to renegotiate custody, which makes me suspect that my ex-husband sees me not so much as an ex-spouse, but as a replacement for the mother who left for his children. This is a circumstance that his family will have to resolve on their own, without my intervention. In the current situation, with his in-laws going to the extent of threatening legal action, any communication with them should be solely through the mediation of attorneys. Your ex-husband is burdened with the care of his other children and seeks to involve you in their lives in any way he can. You have made it clear that the children resulting from his new relationship are not your responsibility. This raises the question of his family's role during his depression and why they have not taken on more responsibilities instead of turning to you. Claiming your involvement in the children's lives from your ex's other relationships, coming from his family, seems incredibly pushy given the circumstances of your breakup. Your life doesn't have to stop because of past relationships, and neither his parents nor children from other relationships can dictate how you live your life. You have already shown generosity by doing more than what was expected of you. The challenge now is for his parents to be proactive and supportive, especially with mental health issues, for the well-being of all his children. A new beginning and a new job can bring you well-deserved satisfaction and joy, as your efforts are focused on creating your own happiness and well-being. Next story. I, a 34-year-old woman, recently had to face an ambiguous situation with my husband of 37 years. We have been living together for 8 years, 7 of which we have been officially married. On the threshold of our future together, my mother shared with me her wise advice to create a contingency fund, a safety cushion in case of life's adversities. My husband, for his part, has always been stable and has rarely given cause for concern. Nevertheless, my mother's words sounded like an easy task, and I took them seriously. Having accepted the role of a housewife, I never felt anxious about my financial well-being, as my husband provided us with a decent income. But years later, tragedy struck our lives. My husband was seriously injured on the job, an incident that nearly turned into a disaster. Due to medical bills and a lost lawsuit, our savings were almost completely depleted. During those difficult times, I found a part-time job to support our family while my husband recovered from his injury. After his recovery, I was once again unemployed as my husband insisted that he had to provide for our family on his own. He currently works tirelessly at 2 full-time jobs and even uses his weekends to work for Uber so that we can stay afloat during these challenging times. Perhaps this is where my position seems controversial. I took responsibility for all expenses and continued to save in a personal account designated for emergencies. The amount of monthly contributions dropped from $750 to just $200. One evening, tired from working hard, my husband brought up the possibility of cutting back, fearing that the stress could have serious consequences on his health. I expressed my position, pointing out the impossibility of changing our lifestyle, as many years of effort had been invested in making our dwelling a real home. Nevertheless, I offered to return to work, which was received with disapproval by my husband after a brief discussion. While searching for ways to optimize my budget, my husband discovered regular transactions in my account dating back several years. In the face of his questions, I was unable to hide the truth about the existence of an approximately $47,000 fund I had set up as a precautionary measure. His reaction was immediate and emotional. He took my actions as a show of distrust, believing that I saw him as a potential threat and had hidden funds from him even in the most difficult of times. I tried to explain that I would have taken such precautions in any relationship, and that it did not reflect how I felt about him specifically. He left the expanse of the house to take refuge with his brother, uttering, "You hurt me at every turn." But according to my mother, that's how money is supposed to work. They will now be the pledge of my departure. I can't believe I found myself in the role of a fool. How could you let this happen? His outrage was immense. You not only kidnapped me, you used me. He almost died teetering on the edge, exhausted from his many jobs. And now he dreams of lessening the burden, for he carries it all on his shoulders. And you, meanwhile, have withheld the sum of $47,000. What kind of nightmare have you created, lady? It's hard to understand your logic in thinking that money is only yours, when everything in a marriage is shared. He bared his soul to me, tired of fighting, and you never told him the truth about the hidden savings. You declared your inability to leave the house you worked so hard to build without mentioning the hard work at 3 different places. If it is impossible for you to leave the house, think how this $47,000 could help you stay and relieve your husband of at least one job. But you, along with your mother, have become a trial for his soul. I pity you, a thief hoping for a divorce. The realization that savings can be limited to a reasonable amount eludes you. Without investing, you've only diminished their value. Everyone here is wrong. Your husband, equally foolish, allowed you to behave this way while being childless. In fact, running a house doesn't take that much effort unless it involves cooking from scratch every day. Oh boy, he's fighting so you don't leave him after losing everything you had. Now I want to tell a different story. In my 26 years, I share a dwelling with a buddy, also 26 years old, and for a year we have been organizing our life together. His companion, a 24-year-old girl who has become not just a roommate, but my close friend. The 3 of us have found harmony and friendship despite the various living situations we have found ourselves in. Recently, life presented us with news, She is pregnant, 7 months pregnant. Last week, as we celebrated her future motherhood, I decided to add warmth to the moment. In anticipation of welcoming the newest member of our little community, I headed to the baby store to pick up a gift. Among the many adorable baby outfits and accessories for moms-to-be, my attention was drawn to a soft pink nightgown with delicate lace around the edges. It was decorated with a picture of a baby sleeping peacefully on a cloud, signed with the words, "Sha, the baby is sleeping." This cuteness won me over, and I didn't hesitate to choose it as an addition to the gift. By giving a nightgown on the day of the celebration, I just wanted to emphasize the care and attention to the mom-to-be. Her cheerful reaction and promise to show off the pajamas the morning after only confirmed the friendly spirit of the evening. My friend was also humorous, appreciating the design of the gift. The next day, however, he expressed concern that my gift might have been perceived as something more intimate than intended. The lace that added delicacy to the outfit and its modest length were not the details that determined my choice. I thought the garment was exceptionally cute, but my friend saw something more in it, pointing to the deep neckline as if I was aiming for something more intimate. My attempts to explain that this cut was for breastfeeding comfort, according to the salesperson, did not dispel his doubts. He expressed concern, believing that I had overstepped the bounds of propriety. Perhaps someone around him had led him to believe that my intentions might be different, because the opinions of others sometimes play an important role in shaping our own beliefs. Despite the widespread misunderstanding of my action, I am convinced that the situation seems absurd. The notion that a gift with a picture of a sleeping baby could carry a hidden meaning seems strange to me. In this case, the gift was merely a token of attention, not something provocative. Besides, the girl herself did not show any displeasure or discomfort, which once again emphasizes the innocence of my gesture. Perhaps your friend is feeling a bit jealous of the close bond between you and his chosen one. Let's face it, even the slightest hint of it would put me in a quandary if I were him. I choose to depart from conventional wisdom and say that no one here has been foolish. Your choice of gift is not comparable to buying something overly explicit. You simply wanted to add a touch of motherly joy to a gift meant to celebrate a new life. My spouse, after sharing his opinion, initially saw it as something odd, but later, after realizing the context, changed his perspective. Your gesture was meant to be supportive during those difficult first months of motherhood. I am convinced that you are acting out of good intentions, wanting to help someone dear to you. On the other hand, offering to try the outfit on yourself seemed inappropriate. I can see why it might have caused your friend confusion. Such gestures seem too intimate. Perhaps a t-shirt would have been a better choice. Either way, your intentions were pure, even though they were accompanied by misunderstandings. Now that you're more aware of the situation, it's worth apologizing and explaining that you didn't see anything wrong with what you did, but that you're willing to accept a different point of view. After all, we're talking about a nightgown, comfortable for nursing, adorned with a cute cartoon image, barely reaching your knees. You shouldn't take it as anything more than a simple and kind gesture. Imagine how strange it would be to doubt yourself over a friendly joke, emphasizing the warmth of our relationship. My next story. As a 30-year-old man from a wealthy family, my father instilled in me from an early age the principles of hard work and constant self-improvement. At the age of 14, I started working for my father's company part-time to earn money for personal expenses, and by the time I was 16, I was a full-fledged employee. When I was 29, my father decided to retire and handed over the management of the business to me. I was still in my second year of university. While studying at the same age, I met a guy with whom we shared common interests and a similar sense of humor through a group project. His passion for cooking resonated with mine, and we decided to cook something together. This plan came to fruition one weekend at his house where we did some cooking together, after which going to the store for ingredients and cooking together on the weekends became our tradition. At the time, I told those around me that we were just friends, but looking back now, I realized that it was then that feelings for him were budding in my heart. After a few months of friendship and joint cooking evenings, I decided to ask him out on a date, to which he happily agreed. In my third year of college, we were already living in the same house with two other friends. Upon graduation, I offered him to move in with me, assuring him that his financial contribution was not important to me. However, he insisted on contributing his share. After a year, his grueling work for money began to take a toll on his health, and I convinced him that his contribution was not valued by money alone. He agreed to reduce his hours, went part-time, and took on personal projects, insisting that at least the household chores should be done by him. Now to the problem. My sister, 32, and her partner, 31, both work, and he earns considerably less than she does. She has confidentially expressed her frustration at being the main breadwinner in the family, wanting her partner to pamper and protect her as male colleagues do with their wives. She is frustrated by the significant income disparity exacerbated recently. In a conversation about my partner's upcoming birthday, she criticized my gift ideas as being too generous, citing that she felt he was not contributing enough to our shared budget. In a conversation with my sister, my emotions overwhelmed me when I shared with her Kim's worries about his financial contribution to our lives. His fears about earning little or not enough were known to me, and I tried to defend him. My sister, however, called him a gold digger, which triggered my angry reaction. I flared up and demanded that she stop talking about Kim like that. After I calmed down, I felt very sick with the realization of my explosion of anger. I realized that my sister is concerned about her financial situation and may be projecting her frustrations and insecurities onto our situation with Kim. But I don't think it's fair for her to take her feelings out on us, especially when Kim wasn't present during our conversation. I feel like I'm being an idiot by letting the situation get out of hand. Deep down, I realize that if our relationship with Kim brings happiness to both of us, then that's what's most important. Perhaps my sister does wish for something more, like receiving expensive gifts. However, it's important to remember that not all men give gifts or flowers, and everyone should appreciate their partner's efforts without comparing them to someone else's relationship. Your feelings and perception of the situation are understandable. It seems that your sister may be facing an internal conflict between her own ideas of what a relationship should look like and the reality of her own relationship, where her partner earns less. Her reaction to your choosing a gift for Kim and calling him a gold digger may be a reflection of her own insecurities and frustrations. It's important to remember that happiness and fulfillment in a relationship doesn't always correlate with each partner's financial contribution. Each couple determines their own rules and the balance that works just for them. If your relationship with Kim brings you happiness and you both find ways to support each other, that's the most important thing. Your sister's reaction may be due to her own issues and struggles, and she may want to consider discussing these feelings with someone who can help her sort them out. However, this does not mean that her views or feelings should negatively affect your relationship or how you and Kim support each other. You may want to try to remain calm and empathic when communicating with your sister about these issues, trying to understand her point of view, but also clear boundaries when it comes to your own relationship and choices. At the end of the day, support, understanding, and respect between loved ones is more important than any financial considerations. A story that really surprised me. My family has had a difficult situation regarding planning a family vacation. I am newly married and have a teenage daughter from a previous relationship, Ador, and a stepdaughter of the same age from my current husband. There is not a warm relationship between the girls, which creates tension in the family. Last summer, our plans for a vacation together were disrupted by my stepdaughter's refusal to join us. My daughter and I ended up traveling separately, while my husband spent time with his daughter. This year, we again faced the problem of organizing a family vacation. My daughter expressed her desire to go with us, but without her stepsister, on the grounds that the latter spoils her mood with her behavior. The situation escalated when, after an outburst of emotions between the girls, my husband suggested that my daughter be left with her grandparents to go on vacation with only his daughter. He argued that raising additional funds to organize separate lodging and other expenses for my daughter was unreasonable, and would rather invest those funds in creating memorable experiences for his daughter. This suggestion left me deeply disappointed and perplexed as I am faced with the dilemma between wanting to maintain fair treatment for both daughters and understanding that my husband wants to make the vacation special for his daughter. I will sincerely admit that I am amazed and overwhelmed by the degree of benevolence and favor my spouse shows to his daughter. We had a big fight that day. Your response should have sounded like this. It's time to explain to your growing child that life is full of injustices. Let her spend time with her grandparents, giving you the opportunity to create memorable moments with your daughter. Prolonged tolerance of such behaviors, whether by your stepdaughter or your husband, puts you in a bad light. It's time to protect your child's interests and seriously consider the future of this marriage. Your daughter will live with this memory for the rest of her life. You need to make your boundaries clear in front of your spouse and convey to him that what he says is completely unacceptable. It may even be worth considering ending the relationship. Your daughter does not deserve to be humiliated and abused in her own home, including the stepfather's relationship. If you are unable to put your daughter's interests ahead of a relationship with a man, consider whether you are willing to accept that your daughter will be seen as a second-class person in her own home. You need to be prepared for the fact that if the child's father were in her shoes, your daughter might already be living with grandparents. Your daughter deserves better.